afternoon. So a couple of things. My project was a little bit different from Claire and Pat's in that I received a Committee for Research and Exploration grant. And then second, I actually began thinking about my project when I was a sophomore in college, trying to figure out what I was going to do my honors thesis on. And one of my professors, who actually later became my thesis advisor, had this community service learning project that was going on called the Philadelphia Field Learning Project. And essentially what that it was a community service project where a bunch of students would go to West Philadelphia and we would use our own skill sets, our interests to work on community beautification projects, murals, education, policy, those kind of things. So basically, my interest was piqued by my professor. He kept talking about this poverty alleviation program called the Empowerment Zone. And what this was, in 1994, the Clinton administration basically gave $100 million to different cities geared to impoverished regions to best determine how the local community wanted to use that money. So I was really interested in this program, particularly because just one day I was on the trolley and I asked this guy next to me, so how do you think the Empowerment Zone is affecting you? And he just stared at me and went, what's that? So we were in Philadelphia in the Empowerment Zone, and this was really interesting because we were right on the corner of an Empowerment Zone, and there were Empowerment Zone businesses right nearby. But he didn't seem to know what it was, how it was affecting him. He didn't really seem to care. It just didn't connect with him. So I was really interested in the disconnect between what I was reading the government was doing and how successful the program was and the creation of jobs. And I just talked to people and they didn't seem to even know what it was. So I was really interested in that disconnect, and eventually, then after conducting interviews in the community, I realized, the one thing that was happening, for example, with small businesses, the legislation defined small businesses as more than 2 people, and in West Philadelphia particularly, a lot of people wanted to do, small partner businesses. So there was all this money that just wasn't being used, and nobody really knew why. So the next year, in my junior year, I went to an Association of American Geographers conference, and I was really interested in internationalizing my research. And I just happened to hear that there was this booth that was giving money away, and there was a grant I could apply for. So I went there and I was like, okay, I think I have this good idea. I met this program officer, her name was Emily, and she was really supportive and seemed really interested in what I was doing. But I knew I was studying abroad in Ghana in the fall of 2008. And I had about 2 weeks to get the application in. So she told me, if you can get this application in 2 weeks, I think you have a really strong idea, and we'd be glad to support it. So I ended up applying for the grant, and I received $5,000 to support my research in Ghana. So specifically, I was really interested, this was, again, highlighting the dual perspectives in Philadelphia. But I was specifically really interested in a similar program in Ghana called the Free Trade Zones. And essentially this was the same thing, encouraging foreign investors to come into Ghana and increase export earnings by giving them tax breaks and tax incentives to come and settle in and provide jobs, skills, and trainings for Ghanaian locals. But again, I was really intrigued to know how the community, the businesses, and the government were all speaking about this initiative, because, again, it seemed like there were very different things that were being said. So my hypothesis, because for the Community of Research and Exploration grant, you need to have a pretty strong hypothesis and a way of carrying it out. So I went to Ghana, and I was interested in, looking at the 4 different enclaves. There are I was in Accra, which is the capital, but the 4 other enclaves were in the Ashanti region, Sekondi and Tema, which is also close to Accra. So when I got there in August of 2008, one of the things you're also probably going to realize, maybe doing international research, is that things do not work the way that you expect them to, particularly in Africa. So I actually spent probably about 2 months waiting to get IRB approval and all these other things, and I actually also discovered that the Tema Enclave was the one that was the most developed, and so I actually spent a lot of time, extra time than I anticipated, taking a taxi all across Ghana because so many businesses were scattered all over the place. So again, with the Ghanaian Free Trade Zone, I actually discovered that, again, looking at community, business, and government, one of the crazy things was that the community wasn't even really viewed as a viable stakeholder group. I conducted a stakeholder analysis thinking, okay, so there's the government, the community, and the businesses that are all invested in this. However, the community, when you talk to the government, they actually purposely excluded them from the drafting of the grant because they didn't think that they were really important. So I found that really interesting, and again, I feel like this speaks to the importance of doing a stakeholder analysis and making sure that if you're using public money for the benefit of a community, that they're actually involved in that process. So what I found was, again, people didn't know what the free trade zone was, and the government seemed to have this idea of a lot of awesome things happening for people and jobs being created, but there was this disparity in how people were talking about this program. So again, with the case studies in West Philadelphia and Ghana, I think for me, what I gleaned from it, there's a lot of lessons to be learned just with poverty alleviation programs. If you're using public money to benefit a community and they're not part of the process, it actually perpetuates poverty, in my opinion. So a lot of, for example, again with West Philadelphia, the fact that it wasn't tailored to the specific community's needs, and they wanted small businesses with 2 people, and the legislation defined it as more than 2 people, there's all this money that's just not being used. And with Ghana, I think it was even more pronounced in that the community wasn't even part of the process of creating this program. So a lot of my time was spent doing interviews. This is the place that I happen to live in Ghana, but I don't have pictures of the people that I worked with because that would violate our confidentiality. So this is, again, an example of small businesses that people were interested in creating, and some more locations that I went to and spoke with people throughout Ghana. But besides that, because I also did study abroad there, I spent a lot of time just going around and talking with people and just enjoying my experience there. So I also, I went to a national park, I went to the rainforest. I also got an opportunity to go to Benin and Togo. I actually had the snake around my neck, which was crazy. I thought it was going to strangle me. But so there was a lot of great things that happened to me with this grant, and I think the one thing I'd really like to impress upon you today is that initially when I applied, I was 20 years old. I had never really done research before, and I just had an idea, and I really believed in it. And so I think I was probably closer in age to a lot of you guys, and my initial thought, if I hadn't had someone to really encourage me, I probably wouldn't have applied, and I probably wouldn't have gotten this great experience. So the one thing I would say is that just if you think you have a good idea and you're really excited about it, go ahead and apply, and hopefully there will be someone on the other end that's reading your application that's just as excited as you are.